now to my best man. His name's Simon Hufford, and he is single. Great introduction, especially as I know that there are only 2 single women here. So we are banging on a bit. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Simon. It will come as no surprise that I have left out a ton of content. We'd be here until carriages if I was to mention everything. So, boy, we were different, weren't we? We were. Going back to September 2003, George had moved down from an independent school in Cheltenham down to Truro. I, on the other hand, had moved down from a state school, a place called Leighton Buzzard, and not so posh. And anyway, day 1 at school, we found ourselves sat on a pew, and I'm there with spiky, real creamed hair, and I look at George. Hi, I'm Simon. How are you? Not that loud, we're in chapel. And he responded something along the lines of, barely any eye contact. He was quite a shy lad. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Nervous. And I look over further on the floor, and I'm glancing over there. And I'm like, what's that? He's brought a briefcase to school. Day 1, Truro School. The guys brought a briefcase. I'm like, no. I don't think we'll be mates. Anyone that's seen In Between Us knows that this guy will 5 years before Will existed. And over the coming weeks and months, we found ourselves in a few classes. I think art in particular, I'll always remember. Like George, as we know, is a very bright lad, but art was never a strong point. And I'll always remember one class early on where we had to draw a girl in our form, India Ross, I think it was, not that it matters.
It was.
And he managed to draw a blend of Hercule Poirot and the Colonel from KFC. It was just nothing like poor India. But our relationship developed, so there was always one passion between us, which formed the basis of that relationship through the school years and to this day, and that was football. Whether that be playing with many people that are here today on the school courts during lunchtime, whether it was trading Merlin football stickers, playing countless hours of FIFA, or supporting our local team, which for me has always been Southampton and always will be. George, who got Stockport, it's been Arsenal, now he's watching Fulham. I was really surprised, Steve, to see one of the questions over there, who does George support, and that be answered Stockport County, I must admit. I think question mark would have been more appropriate.
You cut to the core of me.
You didn't want to hear that, Steve, did you? But it wasn't until we were 18, 2008, that I discovered another passion of George's. Nudity. Now, we'll get there, Liz.
It's all clear.
The first time I discovered this, we were 18, we were starting to drink and go out in Truro, and we had a night with a friend of ours, Tom Harris, who sadly can't be here today. He's still alive, he just lives in New Zealand. But we were drinking pretty heavily, and we decided up at the school, where he was a gap year student, so we were drinking up there with him. We're like, you know what? Why don't we get naked? And why don't we run around the school grounds? And that we did. And we went all the way around, tried to get inside, I think, at one point. And up to the courts again, and onto the rugby pitches, where I think you left a present for the team that was playing the next day. And then we thought,
I'm not sure about that. Yeah,
Truro School's on a hill. It's raining heavily. Why don't we slide down that hill? There are a few grassy patches, and that we did. So slid down, and I just remember picking up cuts and bruises, twigs and broken bits of bark. And you'd think you'd stop there, right? It's like, we've got a great story for school tomorrow. We'll go in, and guess what we did last night? We had a few drinks, and we went around the premises naked. But we didn't stop there. And hi, Mum, you alright? My parents.
We're so proud.
Who are They live next to the school, and we thought, well, why don't we go and knock and say hello? That would be great. I'm sure they want to see our skinny, pale bodies. And so we wandered up through the close and started banging on the door at 1 a.m. And luckily they were spared the sight of us two naked. I didn't see it, but look, there's been plenty of other examples of his love for nudity. Those that went to Aberystwyth with George would have experienced a few skinny dipping escapades, and I know on one occasion the police had more than one word, and let's just say he didn't spend a night at his source of residence that night.
It's not on my record.
No. The record's clean, right? And then, of course, Dick and Bed's wedding.
Oh no!
Dick and Bed's wedding. George at the end, trying his hardest to take all of his clothes off in front of everybody, and Liz coming to save the day and take George off of the stage where he was trying to take his clothes off.
Yeah, tough times.
What the direct quote was, he's just a bit under the weather.
I was just
So most fun.
So look, I mean, there's clearly one ask, isn't there? Keep your clothes on. At least until you get to the bridal suite later on, eh?
Easy.
Did anyone drive to get here today? Show of hands. Brilliant. And you all got here safely, right? Okay. And you travelled a distance greater than 300 metres to get there? Superb. I commend the lot of you. You all achieved something that sadly this lad couldn't back in 2009. Now,
Sorry, Gramps.
we just played an old boys football match, again, Truro School, and we're going back to my parents' place, which, as you know from the previous anecdote, is just around the corner. And George had parked his car up there and needed to take us down.
Yeah, it was Mum's
It was
car.
your car. Okay. It was a car. He was driving. He was taking 3 of us, so Tommy and Tom Collins as well, down this snake to go back up to where my parents are. As we got in the car, and we're going pretty slowly. I think the limit is 20 miles per hour. And as we're meandering down the snake, George starts to gather a bit of pace, and I'm thinking at the front, I don't usually, if I go down this snake, if I'm going somewhere else, because obviously I live next door, go at this pace, and we get to the last corner, and suddenly it's gathering more pace, and we lose control, and we go into a lamppost. The lamppost comes down, and suddenly the 4 of us are getting out of this car. We're saying, "It's gonna blow, run!" And we start running back up the snake. And luckily George and I were actually fine. It was Tommy that came off worse. I remember him being in A&E for 6 hours in the fat lip, looked like a duck. Poor lad.
We saw his credentials as a 100-metre runner, though, didn't we?
We are, absolutely. But George and I got picked up by an ambulance, and it's one of those iconic moments in our friendship. And we've had these moments, both of us, where neither of us have been proud of what's happened, but we've faced up to it. We've learned from it, or at least I think for the most part we have. But we've been able to see the funny side of it. And I always remember us just being in that ambulance, the paramedic there, and George is just sat looking pretty comfortable with a blanket up to his neck, and we just look at each other and we just give each other a wry smile. And we try not to laugh because you probably shouldn't in that instance, right? But we're just cracking up inside.
You didn't have to talk to the police.
We're not saying we were proud.
George can be an emotional lad. Well, that wasn't meant to be funny, it's 2022. They can be in touch with their emotions. But let me tell you about one anecdote where George's emotions really did get the better of him. He came to visit me in Argentina with dear friend Ali Campbell back in 2015. And we were down in Patagonia, and we were hitting a nightclub there. Definitely had too much to drink, and I'm in the nightclub, very much consumed in the reggaeton music and dancing by myself. Oh, look at me, I live in Argentina, I can move my hips. And all of a sudden, I look up, and it's Betty. He's gone and slapped me, and I'm like, Betty, what did you do that for? I couldn't get anything out of him. What was what was up? What's happened? And like 5 minutes just went on until he explained to me that he had been chased for many, many minutes by this rather large, overweight Argentine woman around this nightclub. He wasn't interested in her, she clearly was, and he blamed me for not intervening.
You weren't listening.
I wasn't listening. Cracking episode of Tom and Jerry, that must have been. But there are plenty of other instances where, and one of the things I, again, love about George, and I'm sure we all do, is he is in touch with his emotions. He wears his heart on his sleeve. What you see is what you get. And there's been plenty of times, and again, I always remember when we travelled through Latin America, just going to one side and just calling me to one side in the nightclub, just like, let me just talk to you about stuff. It's like, no, I've got so much to give. I just want to find the right woman. And that he did. In April of 2019, Alice Baird, everybody.
That sounds good.
Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the wedding day itself, but I'll always remember that trip back to, again, I think it was my parents, wasn't it? In the car. It all seemed to always go back there. And you know, I'm there just, I think, talking about whether Salah's going to get 2 or 3 bonus points. And all George was saying was, like, I've just met the woman of my life. She's absolute cracker, jeepers! And you could not shut him up. It was Alice this, Alice that. And she just knew that this was meant to be from day one. Something special had started.
You were there for a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Alice, you are so great. You're clever, you're hardworking, you're incredibly determined. You connect with everyone and anyone. And I'm just so happy for you and George, and I'm really happy that I can call myself a friend of yours, as well as Benny's.
Thanks, Si.
You got the patience at the second. Let me tell you about the time that Alice met Steve. That's the one. So Aaron, Dickon, Steve, George and I were off to see Stockport County, that team that we sort of half supports. And yeah, kick-off's typical time, 3 p.m. But George had agreed to introduce Alice to Steve over coffee. And they were due to meet at 11 a.m. And sadly, George never turned up. He'd had quite a big night the night before with new colleagues at Wimbledon, had a bit too much to drink, and failed to be there. But as I just mentioned, Alice connects with everyone, there were no issues. But you do have the patience to say.
You're great.
A&E, mate.
Benny, my best mate, you got such an ability to walk into a room and just absolutely feel it. Your thirst for knowledge, your passion, your energy levels are off the chain. And it's just a great privilege to have been your best mate for the last 19 years. Through some great times and through some bad times. And I just really appreciate the friendship that we've got, and again, just so happy for the future, and so excited for the both of you and what's going. A real honour to obviously organise the Stag Do in Valencia, to see you make the mark up from putting a pizza into the oven and serving it with a bit of mayo to cooking a paella, to being in a Valencia shirt and dancing to Smell Like Teen Spirit with a great group of lads, and dancing reggaeton in the map that we dressed you in for obvious reasons, given you can name every capital city in the world. What's the capital city of South Sudan?
Juba.
No, seriously, it's testament to the person you are, that you had 21 lads there, different groups of people coming together and just gelling so well, and all there to celebrate this great man, the person he is, and the future that he's going to have. You really are one of a kind. And in his own words, Alice, George, you're different gravy. So I'd like to propose a toast. So Alice and George, different gravy.
Let's get on with this party, shall we?